Picture this. It's 1811, and textile workers in England are rioting. They're smashing mechanical looms because they are convinced that these machines are going to destroy their livelihoods. Fast forward to 2026, and we are seeing similar themes played out centered around AI or artificial intelligence. Except this time, the machines are writing poetry, diagnosing diseases, and eventually will be crawling the transcript of this podcast. So, once again, we're finding ourselves asking, what does this mean for us, for our work, and for our souls? Today, we're doing something a little different on With Hat and Cattle. I brought together 3 people who are seeing this moment through radically different lenses. A historian who knows that we've been here before, a chaplain who's asking what maybe we're risking spiritually, and an AI professional who's actually building and working with these systems. Now, the inspiration for this episode probably came because I was overcaffeinated and couldn't sleep one night. But I thought, what if we had a panel and called it a historian, a chaplain, and an AI expert log onto a Zoom call?
It's a good setup for a joke.
It is a setup for a
I was
joke.
thinking about that.
But the punchline is that each of these perspectives really is essential to understanding what's going on right now. So we're going to explore AI and see if this is just the latest chapter in a very old story. We're going to ask what it means to be made in the image of God when machines can think. And we'll dig into questions about dignity, purpose, community, and power. And we may even ask some uncomfortable questions like who benefits, who gets left behind, and who gets to decide. So please know this is not a debate about whether AI is good or evil. This is simply a conversation about what it means to be human in a moment of profound transformation. So let's introduce our guest. First, we have Dr. Dallas Cothrum, who currently is the owner of Masterplan Consultants and USA Engineers. But he holds a doctorate in history, where his focus is on U.S. history. And he's also taught history at the University of Texas at Tyler, long before joining Masterplan. He serves as a contributing columnist for the Dallas Morning News and is one of the hosts on the podcast Working Title with Zach Sams. So if anyone can tell us whether this time is different, it's going to be Dallas.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Chaplain John Betz is the executive director for spiritual health at Wellstar Health System and has been serving his community in a faith-based way for over 20 years. He's deeply passionate about providing evidence-based solutions in his field and seeks to be conversant in various interdisciplinary contexts. He is also the co-host of the podcast, The Chaplain's Compass, and he has 2 amazing sons and loves exploring nature with them. John, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I'm excited for this conversation.
And last but not least, we have Tori Begg, who currently is leading AI strategy, enablement, and programs at Voice Media Group. She's integrated AI solutions by using custom LLMs, or large language models, and agents, and she's the co-founder of local group Mind and Machine DFW, which opens up the AI conversations to everyone, industry experts to newbies. Tori focuses on the human side of artificial intelligence, bridging the gap between the human and the technology. And we are also just so grateful she's agreed to be here today and be a part of this conversation. Tori, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's going to be really interesting, and I love the different perspectives, which is why I created Mind and Machine to have these conversations. So thanks for putting this together.
All right. Yes, everyone, welcome. And let's get right to it. All right. We're going to start with an easy one. Who's most worried about their job being automated?
Not me. I'm
Not a
leading the
chance.
automation.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Well, I think as a parent, I'm worried. I think it's, I got a high schooler and a college kid, and this is already one of the worst job markets since the Great Recession. And so you factor in, that you got many large employers that are going to hire half as many people or less. Those analyst jobs, a lot of those beginning footprint of your career jobs already not available, and now they're going to become less available. So, if I were, I don't know, 19 or 20 or 22 or so, I would be concerned that, that really you could have gone to college, and you're getting out in a completely different economy and job market than you went in. That's worse than your college changing catalog in the middle of your major.
Degree. Yeah.
Okay, you kind of deal with that. You're so. I mean, it's a hard thing, I think, for young people to, oh, you need all these coursework or internships. And if you do these things, there'll be something waiting for you on the other side. Maybe.
This is so true. You reminded me of, in 2008 when I bought my first house, but we also had a recession and did not keep that house.
Yeah.
Did not get my American dream.
Well,
but
and-
this is why these conversations are important.
And you had all these people that got out of school in like 2006, 7, 8, 9, those classes, maybe even 10, they delayed their careers. I mean, they got lesser than jobs. It impacted them when they got their first raises and promotions. I mean, there's certainly some millennials that can look back and say, I had a slow start, not because of anything they were doing.
Right.
I think
Um,
that's such a good point, and I think it's really important to think about the next generation. I'm currently writing a book on raising kids in the era of AI. As I'm looking at you guys on the screen, I see my 9 and 11-year-old behind my computer running around and drawing. And I think that we need to be conscious of the fact that this is going to be different than even me as a 36-year-old woman came into the workforce, but we need to teach them how to adapt. So will it take the jobs of these young people? Not if they adapt and start learning now. So I go into my kids' schools and start teaching about how to learn differently and how to grow differently in the era of AI. I'm teaching parents and have conversations all the time about what strategy and how we keep strategic thinking in the forefront, even when we have this tool that's inevitably changing the way that kids are going to grow up in society, right?
Mhm.
So it's not that they're going to take these jobs or that kids need to be worried about having lack of jobs or different jobs. And of course, we're in a hard time in the job market right now, but that's where we come in to have these conversations. It's our responsibility to keep them thinking about creativity in the era of AI, keep them talking about it and learning about it and adapting with it, because AI will automate and narrow repetitive tasks. So we need to teach them to be bigger strategic thinkers so that they have a leg up in the society as they grow into it.
I love that.
Problem is you've got like here in Texas, a legislature that, is taking, they don't want the kids to have phones at school. They doubt technology, even though the world's built on it. And, I don't really understand that I'm not for distraction in class, but I'm from embracing that, we're going to have to work with technology and adapt to it and master it. And why wouldn't I want to be doing that in my coursework? But there are a lot of vagaries around Texas politics that I don't understand.
100%. And it looks like John was going to add something maybe from the spiritual side to this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I love the discussion about this because disruption it's historical. I imagine there were probably a lot of friars who were bemoaning the good touches that took place with the invention of the printing press, because all of these people who were copying it by hand, all of a sudden they don't have to do that anymore. But AI in itself touches cognition, it touches creativity, it touches upon moral decision making, and I love what you said, like the idea that we need to be curious about where we're going and have our kids be curious about who they are, where they're going. Because we built tools before, but this is the first time that we've built tools that imitate personhood.
And you said
Correct.
printing press, right? The printing press made scribes anxious. The Industrial Revolution made craftsmen anxious,
yeah.
right? And the internet made everybody anxious. And this is very similar to that anxiety, but much quicker. So
Well,
we
we're
need to
also
be much
more
quicker in our
prepared for it.
training.
The iPhone, and Dani and I've talked about this many times. The iPhone really is the Gutenberg printing press. It has completely changed the world. And when it happened in 2007, people weren't really, there were some people I remember standing in line. I think they saw that the future is different. I just was looking at those people as a spectator, like, I already got a BlackBerry. It doesn't get any
Yeah.
better. I mean, and I can use that roller. Awesome. But I look back and realize I wish I'd been more aware. People are more aware that this is impacting them. They know it's happening now. I mean, but that's happened before. The people knew the steam engine was a big deal. It's not like they didn't think, oh, Robert Fulton, did something big.
But what
So
I've heard
Dallas,
from
tell us.
all of that, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. We can talk, like, go about this all day, I feel. But Dallas, when in history have people been right to worry, and when do you feel those fears were maybe overblown?
I think people should always worry. I mean, history is the study of change over time. And I'll tell a little story. So I worked with a famous military historian on my dissertation. And one day I was in his office, and somebody from the TCU newspaper, the Skiff, came in and said, Dr. McWhinney, I'd like to talk to you about the war in Bosnia. And he said, oh, I'd be happy to talk to you. Can you come back in 30 years? Now, that was a history joke. She didn't understand it. She just thought he was being difficult, which he could be. But I understood it because as a historian, it takes a long time to be able to decide, well, how disruptive was this? We don't know. I mean, right now it's a current event.
Right.
So, should people have been very worried about, the gathering storm in Europe, following World War I? Yes. But maybe they should have been worried about the victors of World War I not punishing the nations that they defeated. So, one thing I learned about taking and teaching history classes is that, like, you might be having a class on the Civil War. Man, we're going to have to go back and start maybe in 1820 or 1812. You're going to have to go way back. No. We got to start earlier. Well, you can always point to an event even earlier than that. So, I don't know. In my mind, I think, because I'm not a tech person and, I see myself as a liberal arts person, but I think of this as 2007. This revolution started then and it's moved forward. But I bet I could convince myself of, that started earlier with the Mac computer, and people, I think that was one of the important things that Apple did early, is having approachable technology and beautiful things that people actually can use, and it enriches their life. It's not just a machine. I don't think they ever thought of them as machines.
Right. So
I think enriching your life is a really great point there. And you went through some history and some tools and some things that's come about in society that has reshaped society, right? But some of those took decades, some of them took centuries, and AI is taking months and in some cases days, right? But wouldn't you say, Dallas, and I'm curious about what your opinion is on this, the pattern has been the same throughout history. It's anxiety, adoption, augmentation, and then a new normal, right?
Yeah.
It's no matter what disruption it is.
I was thinking about, like, I don't know, I don't know why I thought of this. There was all this thought at one time about, how vacuum cleaners and all these household appliances are going to make it, turn your life into the Jetsons. And in the end, that none of that actually ever really happened. It's still a pain to clean your house, at the end of the day. So, but people have adopted all these things. Maybe it's better, certainly better than that, like, 20-pound iron my grandmother used.
So
Yeah.
Dallas brought up a good point that
One in a row.
yeah, he mentioned, we can point to an event, right, or something that happened, but it takes some time looking back towards the past. Tori, for many of us, AI entered the conversation, I feel, in 21, 22, but AI has actually been around for a while.
Yeah.
In your opinion, when did AI really become mainstream?
Well, generative AI, when that
Right.
came to society, people started paying attention. But artificial intelligence, machine learning has been around since the 50s. So a very long time. But November of 2023, right, is really when ChatGPT came out, really when people started paying attention. But I would argue that people are just now starting to pay attention. We don't even have general society that is using this as an everyday tool yet. I think what I try to get out of is this bubble that I'm stuck in, where every single person on LinkedIn is talking about AI, every podcast, my whole social media feed, every person that I converse with in general is AI. But taking a step outside of that bubble, I don't know if it's necessarily ubiquitous yet to be integrated into our daily life systems, operating workflows, but we're getting there. And generative AI and ChatGPT was definitely the catalyst to getting there.
That is a very great point, because you are 100% correct. On LinkedIn, that's what my feed is, right? AI. And, I went to a class in January, and the professor was one of the professors, very adamant. You need to have your hands on keyboard learning AI every day, because within a year, if you don't know AI, it's like going to work without your laptop. That's how crazy fast this is moving. But when I go to Facebook, where I have more connections with creatives, artists, and poets, we must protest, and we must, it's bad, and this is why. And so I'm seeing both sides of the conversations on two different platforms. So, John,
Well, they may be both right.
yes, exactly. This is why we're having this conversation. From a spiritual or theological perspective, John, what's fundamentally at stake when we talk about these machines that are, essentially kind of thinking?
Yeah, I know. I love thinking about that, because what's really fundamentally at stake is not whether machines can think, but whether we can begin to misunderstand what it means to actually be a human. Because from a theological perspective, human beings aren't just simply defined by intelligence or output. We're not just bodies, machines. We're not machines. But it's not that our bodies don't matter. We are relational. We're embodied. We are morally accountable. So we can love, we can suffer, we can take responsibility for our actions. And also, I like listening to Richard Rohr, and he's from a Franciscan perspective. And one of the things that is described is that all of creation bears some sort of divine imprint, but humans can take a particular responsibility within that creation. So they're described as stewards, but not owners. So they steward creation, but they don't own it. God Almighty is the one who owns it. So when we build something that imitates human cognition, the question then becomes, are we deepening our role as stewards, or are we confusing ourselves about who we are? So if we start treating machines as though they're persons, or treating people as though they're machines, then it seems like we're eroding dignity in both directions. So, and even outside of theology, I have some great friends who are humanists, and humanist thought would say something very similar, that human beings, they're not just information processors, but we're meaning makers. We are moral agents. We're participants in this shared responsibility. So what's at stake is not necessarily machine intelligence, but it's human clarity.
Yeah, I really resonate with all of that. And I think that in the AI space, you don't get this take very often, but I am a human first, AI forward AI leader, right? And I say all the time, AI allows me to be more human. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's handling the drudgery that humans can, so that humans can do that higher order work, whether that be in theology or deciding, creating, caring, leading, loving.
Yeah.
I get to set up that automation of things that are menial and monotonous. And I get to spend more time building relationships and taking the humanistic part of me to a higher level, rather than sitting on a computer, right? Or writing out a shopping list. I can have AI do that in accordance to what's in my fridge, because I took a picture, uploaded it to Claude, had it understand my recipes for the last year, make new recipes, come up with the entire shopping list, put the shopping list into Amazon, order it for me, and then give me the recipes for the entire week. That just saved me 2 hours that I can now go and play a game with my children, right? So it's taking those drudgery moments out that we have fallen into because of tech and bringing ourselves back into society. So I'm a humanistic AI leader. And it's interesting to think of like the theological sector of that. Like, can it give us time and energy to give back to a higher being or beliefs in that system?
Yeah, no, and I love that because even in one of my main roles is as a spiritual health professional, and so a chaplain, and we do a lot of charting, and even charting, we have a lot of colleagues where English is their second language, so this has even provided them with a, a bit of an equaling of the plane so that they're able to chart more effectively in English, so that they don't have to struggle with the translation as much. Of course, we the questions then arise. You want to make sure that you're not putting protected health information into those areas, of course, but at the same time, how can I say certain things so that it is customized to the particular patient, family member, and so that it's not just I love what you said, drudgery, because charting can be such drudgery. And
To the other side of that, though, and I think this touches on some of Dallas's concerns as a parent. AI is doing things like that, right?
yeah,
But it's also, as he mentioned, eliminating that first rung into
mhm,
job entry, right? And I mean, being open and vulnerable myself, I'm, an executive assistant, and AI has made some of my role redundant. And so this is why my hands are on keyboard, learning AI and how I can add value to my role as it progresses. But not everyone's doing that. And so,
yeah.
Tori, when you speak to educating people, you know, are you seeing out there that, people are taking matters into their own hands, or it's, being, I can't, assertive, not being reactive to that, they're actually taking initiative. There we go. I got there. Taking initiative and learning this, or is it something that's just, it's going to be reactionary? I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
I am really lucky because I surround myself with people who are taking initiative just intrinsically, right? Because of the things that I'm doing, because of the positions that I hold, because of the networking groups that I go to, and the people that I surround themselves. Going back to my earlier comment, I think a lot of people aren't taking the initiative. I have a girlfriend that lives up in Maine and lives off the land, and she thinks I am crazy every time I talk to her. She's like, "Chat G, what?" And a lot of people are still in that space, which is why like I take the responsibility to drive AI literacy for the people who might not be there, because as you said, Dallas said, maybe we're getting rid of that first rung. But again, it's about that education piece and really spreading the knowledge that maybe that first rung or the entry level position can be redundant, as you said. But then we teach everybody that we all have to be managers, and maybe those redundancies are held by agents, but now every entry level position is a manager that has to decide, act, and lead a bunch of AI agents that were once doing their job. So if you're not having initiative in this space and you're listening to this, you should at least a little bit start being curious, start getting your hands on the keyboards and typing prompts to start with, learning how to prompt, because it's not going anywhere. We know that. And the people that lack initiative are going to be the people that are left behind.
Mm. Dallas, in your opinion, how have societies historically handled massive job displacement?
They come up with new jobs. I
Very much.
mean, and I mean, people just learn new skills, or I mean, like the craftsman thing. I mean, there's still room for that. That still exists. I mean, and it's not like they all went out of business when you went to mass produced products. It's just there was differentiation in here's some finely made goods, here's some junk, and people probably have some of both of those things. I know they do. So, and I was thinking the other day in a conversation that if everybody's zigging, some people are going to zag. I think this is a really good time for your liberal arts institutions and for people to decide, that well, I'm going to be better at writing. I'm going to be a better critical thinker. I think there are going to be some colleges and universities that decide, okay, we are doing this and we are teaching this, but we're also sharpening other skills. Um, and then there'll be some large public schools, I suspect, that really double down, and their kids are not as broadly educated, and they become technicians. And I don't think that probably is the right answer. I think usually we've seen the people with the broadest, best critical thinking and decision making and communicating do better. That's just hard to do at big public schools for a cheap price.
All right. Let's shift to ethics and justice, because even if AI creates more jobs than it replaces, there's still questions centered around fairness and bias and who gets to make those decisions. So
Fair comes once a year. It's in October.
here in Texas, this is correct.
I get
So,
it.
all right, John. Curious, when we talk about AI and ethics, what, in your opinion, what moral framework should we be using?
Oh, so that's a great question because there are so many different approaches that you can take from it. We need a framework that actually keeps human dignity at the center and asks who are the groups that are benefiting and who is bearing the cost. This gets into a lot of the environmental justice pieces, because how much water is all this technology costing and using? And in my tradition, which I'm an Episcopal transitional deacon, and we draw from it's like a three-tiered stool, three-legged stool, and it's scripture, tradition, and reason, and that leads usually to a few consistent priorities. That means protecting human dignity, pursuing justice, and not just efficiency, but also keeping our eye open to the most vulnerable. We see a lot in the Hebrew scriptures, the Jewish writings, about how the prophets were very much calling out the people who were using the most vulnerable so that they could get more stuff. But going back to the Franciscan lens, we're not owners, we're stewards. So the question then becomes, are we using AI in a way that honors people and the world, or are we just merely, some traditions would have considered the world as like this sinking ship from which we need to jump out of. A lot of them come from the premillennial dispensationalist perspective, like the Left Behind, the late great Planet Earth, the people who believe in the rapture, which, by the way, was invented in the early 1800s. No Christians believed that before that. But this idea that the world just, we need to jump out of this world and, screw everything else, pardon my French. So ethically, I'd like to translate that into three questions on any AI system. So who is helped, who's harmed, and whose voice is not at the table, who's invisible. So, and
Thank you. Thank
yeah.
you for bringing all of those questions up. And that kind of leads me to something I wanted to bring up with Tori. So when I first went to Mind and Machine, and Tori, I'm not calling you out, but you made a statement that actually made me pause. And I thought, oh, I don't know if I like the answer to this, but it stayed with me now here almost a year. Someone had a concern about the environmental effects of AI and the data centers and all that. And you said AI is going to give us the answer. And I thought, oh, like that's an interesting perspective. I hadn't heard that yet. Can you elaborate on that?
This is where the power of AI comes, right? We have problems as society, whether it's kind of a meta problem that AI is the problem that AI can solve, or other problems. And we have this tool that's capable of augmenting the human to be able to understand and solve these problems at a faster speed, higher capacity, and potentially more outside of the box. So when we're thinking about the problems that AI is causing, we talked about, energy, water. The best way to solve those is that meta-solve is by using AI to solve that problem. And they're already doing this, right? But I did want to take a pause also. And I think that this ethical concern about the environment sometimes is a big hype cycle. And of course, we have energy needs that run into AI, and we do need to be conscious on how we're using it, how much we're using it, and the ethical challenge of building it faster than the environment can take. But I think people need to actually take time to research that as well. I think the production farming side of one cheeseburger is equal to 1.7 million prompts that somebody would make. So let's reframe the way we're thinking about it also, and realize how much that we're taking from the environment, how much we can solve with AI, not just the AI problem, but every problem we have in the environment, and what that weight and implication looks like. And if you do all of that, put all of the research behind it, and understand the potential of solve versus the potential of growth by integrating AI into the world, I think that it's worth it, which is where I'm saying. But we wouldn't be able to solve the AI problem if we didn't have AI. And we wouldn't be able to solve a lot of other problems if we didn't have AI as well. So
there are two things people don't like: change and the way things are.
yeah.
And I mean, this comes up, and that's my best line.
It's a
That's
great
great.
one.
Thank
He
you.
has several. I'm gonna help him put out a book of his Dallasisms.
But that's a good one, and it speaks to the duality of how people just don't like things, and they don't know why they don't like them. Sometimes they're suspicious. They feel other people are gaining an advantage on them, and people have this tendency to ration things they don't know anything about. And they do this we see this in land uses. Oh, we have enough storage. Oh, how much is normally needed in an area? People don't have any idea what the numbers are. They just, I don't use it, so you shouldn't either. Oh, okay. Well, how do you feel about fluoride? Oh, I don't like it. Okay, well, some people do. So this is going to be one of those debates, like the fluoride debate. And I don't know, I can name a lot of other historical ones. I studied with a historian who would use it as example about how history has these trends, and probably you shouldn't say this anymore. He'd be like, breastfeeding is good. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And he kind of could go back and track for over 100-year period of what science thought about this. So, we're just at the fear part, and people are, like the other day, Mesquite turned down a data center. They can't afford to do that in terms of their tax base, and people aren't putting away their phones. So, and they're not, even people that are not and don't think of themselves as technologically driven, they're taking a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
They are participating. They just don't feel like they are, or more likely it's whatever they are doing is okay. They're doing it the right way.
Well, that's right, because again, people don't know. People think AI is generative AI, right? Like Chat GPT, Claude. They don't realize you're using your map on your phone. You're using AI. It's just, goes back to what Tori says. People don't realize how much they're using it.
Yeah. And there's one other thing that I want to kind of double click on that Jonathan said. He wanted to make sure that everybody had their voice heard in that ethical concern. And I think a huge ethical challenge that I ponder is not always on the environment, but ensuring that AI is serving human flourishing, I guess, not just shareholder value or profit at all cost viewpoint. And we need to make sure that we are having intentional choices made by leaders, builders, and organizations within the AI space to make sure that we're setting up AI with guardrails as it concerns ethics and humanity as well. And I just didn't want
This
that
is a great opportunity
under
for
the rug.
regular Americans to decide to invest in it. I mean, it's already expensive, but it's going to be much more expensive. So there's nothing preventing people of moderate means of deciding I'm going to just forego all my Starbucks or other things, and I'm going to invest in this. I mean, so there's an opportunity for people to get in on the ground floor, um, and benefit from it, particularly young people. They'll see that investment over. Really, like, talk about a multiplying effect. I think there's a real opportunity here. There's also risk, but that's the case with anything.
Well, and going with that, there's also the concept of bias because of how many. It reminds me of back in the days of the I think it's either the Iraq or the Afghanistan conflict that took place following 9/11, and where the American forces were making a lot of mistakes because they were listening to the people who spoke English rather than the people who, because that was easy. They could get to the people who spoke English, but so that was what was feeding a lot of their intel, a lot of their ability to talk about, well, this is what's happening with the local populace, but they weren't talking with the local populace. And so creating AI so that you have a diversity of opinion, a diversity of experience, and so that local populations are able to be represented. And we see that within the idea of research, because research has typically been biased toward people who look like me, a cishet white male, and has downplayed minorities, persons of color, women, and other minorities.
I think that's such a good point because this is something I get nervous about. We're putting our source of truth into AI as it gets more ubiquitous and people are using it as a Google or as a source of truth. But realistically, we're putting our source of truth and knowledge into 5 white billionaires' hands, right? We have your Mark Zuckerbergs and Elon Musk's and these people that are building these systems. And we have to remember that these systems are built with the judgment and the bias of the companies that are building them. They get to decide how they want the AI to act, what they want those guardrails to look like, what personality that it has through the system prompts for ease of conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So we need to think about that. I think that is really important. I think that that's why this conversation was so intriguing to me and why it is so important, because we need more voices in AI that are of ethicists, of clergy, of historians, of civil rights leaders, and not just engineers and billionaires.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. That makes my liberal arts heart so happy. This is actually what started it, because I am not in the tech space, right? I have a liberal arts degree. And so approaching it and seeing it from these different lenses, I felt was just so important. And so kind of winding down the conversation, AI doesn't just change our economy or raise ethical questions. It's changing the whole environment. It's changing culture, communities. I think we've all touched on that. And, again, what makes us human? So let's dive into that just a little bit. Tori, are we in an arms race that we can't win?
Whew, that feels like a really loaded question.
Is this, at the end of the day, is this going to be a solvable problem, or is it really, again, just people who have taken that initiative are going to come out ahead?
Yeah, I don't think we have a choice, right?
Yeah.
There's no getting over it. We just trudge through it. And I think the sooner that we understand that fact, and I don't know if succumb is the right word, but succumb to the fact that this is the future, it's not going anywhere. And you're either, from my hippie language, you're either on the bus or you're off the bus, right? That's when we start almost liberating ourselves and getting over that fear and anxiety. I don't think that it's a win or lose. I think that's the wrong lens to look through, because the only time you lose is if you make yourself so unhireable, uncommunicative, because you don't understand the world. And the historian and the clergy people both understand that. As soon as you become uneducated, knowledge is power. It's hard to grow and be a contributing part of society. So it's not win or lose. It's playing along with the game, and it's deciding to get on that bus.
I mean, prior to World War II, most Americans either lived or their parents had lived or worked on a farm. I mean, so, for U.S. servicemen, it was the first time they had gone to a dentist. I mean, there are all these things that didn't happen that long ago. This is just where we are. Is that I guess my grandkids will probably say, "Oh my God." Well, I don't know what. I hope I don't have some horrible grandparent name like Papa or something, but whatever it is that they, I mean, like, oh my God, you used a typewriter. In fact, I did take typing. I was on the high school typing team too. But like they're gonna think all these things are like so old timey, like I grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
And there were definitely kids that were like, oh my God, you grew up without the cotton gin or whatever it is. We're just at a point, and there'll be another point that people thought that AI was quaint.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that was not really the thing. That's the thing about history is that you think this is the big thing. It's just a big thing. There's a long march of human history of, I mean, like, I bet the guy that invented the wheel was a real big deal. And there were people before like, no, I just want to carry all this heavy crap myself and my buddies. You're putting us out of work. This wheel's terrible. Like, we don't need this. I mean, like, I don't know. It looks like it's pretty good. I mean, like, I'm not going to give up on the wheel.
Right. Oh my God, Dallas, I went back to a random memory. We were talking about your grandkids talking to us like we were ancient. I remember telling my daughter, who was like 6 at the time, asking her something about, being careful. Like, because when you shave your legs eventually when you're older, and she goes, Mom, shave. I'm like, laser remove it, like laser hair removal. And he's like 6. Like, what are you doing? So
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
no, you are right. You are 100% correct.
I just wrote a LinkedIn post the other day that was like, our kids are going to be like, you used your fingers to do work?
Oh my God.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh
Well,
my
I was
God.
actually just looking at my finger, my ring finger on my left hand. I'm left-handed, and I have to this day a nub, a place where my finger was changed permanently because of how much writing I was doing in elementary school, and it
Wow.
really has that mark on it because we'd have to take notes, and we would just listen to the teacher and just old school take notes, and then of course, we have the computer lab. And we have the green screens with the huge floppy disks that were literally floppy. But no, and being able to, and having the discussions of, from a religious perspective, people thinking, oh, well, this is the Antichrist. Computers are the Antichrist. Oh no, it was the Soviet Union. Oh no, it was, and throwing up all these ideas, going back to our conversation about fear. It's not, it's going to happen. And I kind of go back to what Jesus mentioned in Matthew. He mentioned, he's like, hey, there were famines, there's going to be wars, rumors of wars. That's always been happening. Don't worry about that. It's going to happen. But here's the thing. If you're trying to place dates on certain things of when, what's the Antichrist or what's going to happen, just don't be worried about that. Love your neighbor. Love your neighbor. That's how I get pissed off, says Jesus.
All right, guys. Thank you again
Thank you.
so much. Now, before we go, I do have a question for each one of y'all. So, Tori, if you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, the first thing that came to my head was Janis Joplin.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can we double click on that? I don't think I've ever had that answer from anyone.
I was just in New York City with my daughter, and we were at the Hard Rock Cafe in New York, and they had a box of one of her old leather pants and one of that red boa that she wore. And, I just think she was probably such a curious person with such an in-depth and busy mind. And those are the people that I like to surround myself with, people that kind of think outside of the box and feel a little bit different and also live life at the same time. And man, she must have seen some crazy stuff in her life. I just think it would be a hoot of a dinner.
She was a Texan.
Really?
I'm not a Texan, obviously. I'm
Beaumont
from
is Texas. Yes, that's right. John?
Oh, I love that question because, of course, there's a Sunday school answer, which is always Jesus. No, I love. Don't get me wrong, I love Jesus. But honestly, I would love to just grab some coffee or some beer or a meal with Neil deGrasse Tyson, just because he's fascinating, he's funny, he has a lot. We disagree on so many different things, but at the same time, I think we'd have a great conversation, and we would just be able to. There's a lot of areas that I agree with him on, but at the same time, it'd be great to have those discussions, and I imagine he's probably a good foodie as well. So.
And Dallas, round it up for us.
How about George Washington?
I mean, I
I'd
love
like
that.
to know what the real plan was. Everybody likes to put words in the founder's mouth. I'd like to ask some questions.
I love that. Thank you again for joining us for this conversation. I'm going to link in the show notes where everyone can find y'all. And yeah, to the community, just stay curious, stay grounded, and do something today that increases your AI knowledge.